This week on Prompted, guest star Ellie writes us an unsettling horror, Izzy dives into screenplay, and Erin returns to sci-fi. First, we discuss clichés, stereotypes, and how to avoid them. Hi guys, welcome back to Prompted, and we have a new guest here, which is Ellie. Hi Ellie.
Hi. Hey, how are you guys?
You're going to get the question which we ask everyone, which is, who are you and what do you write?
So, I'm a third year philosophy student and I know Izzy and Erin through improv. So I kind of write low fantasy and sci-fi, like almost magical realism, but I know magical realism has a very specific definition, but that sort of thing, like just people trying to get on with their lives while they turn into birds or werewolves and that sort of thing. I also do quite a few scripts and more scripts than prose because I find that really fun, but bits of prose as well. Nuts.
I think I've read an entirety of one of your plays within like half an hour at one point where you were like, here, read this, but we have literally 20 minutes to go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Lovely
I remember
stuff.
that was fun. That was cool, Sharon.
It was a good play.
Yeah.
Izzy, you need to read that play. I love
really
that play.
want to read it. I didn't know that, like, I've known Ellie for ages, and I didn't know that you write. I know that you did a few things with some of the theatre societies and stuff like that. But when I found out that you could, like, that you write and you love, like, practicing writing and stuff like that, I was like, yes, we'll get you on the show, please.
But like I don't write every day. Like there's been lots of days where I felt guilty for not writing, but like I don't write every day.
Bold of you to assume that we in fact do write every
Oh my goodness, I study creative writing for a degree and I do not write every day. It's one of those things that you just have to pick up when you can and write as much as you can when you can, but then there's always going to be off days that you just can't write, and it doesn't make you any less of a writer.
Yeah. Okay. That's comforting to know.
Yeah.
Does anyone else do that thing where, like, when they wake up at, like, 2 in the morning and they can't sleep, they decide to write something?
Yes.
Has anyone ever done that?
I do that with essays. I'm like,
Are they either, like, inspired and amazing or terrible? I feel like there's
they
no in
normally
between.
turn out really well. Like,
Really?
there was a period in term 2 of like first year where I just couldn't sleep, so I just wrote a load of essays and like 4 a.m. in the morning, and they like somehow got firsts, and it's like, what?
That is a superpower.
Okay, so big question. What time was it when you wrote this piece?
I'm about midday, like.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I've got to write that piece of Prompted as well, and got stuck on an essay, so I'm just like, I'm gonna write this and have loads of fun writing it while I should be doing, like, I'm feeling guilty for not doing degree work.
Oh, the joy.
But it helped with, like, the essay, yeah.
Speaking of your piece, Ellie, we're gonna have a look at yours first. So let's jump right into it. Does everyone know which part they're playing?
Yep.
So the prompt this week is, that's my favourite rib. How did you guys find it?
This helped me so much. This really got me thinking.
Really?
Yeah, because I was basically, my piece, I kind of tied it into experimenting with something that I want to do in my screenwriting module at uni that I was just in a rut with. And so this prompt helped me both with my, obviously with this piece and with my uni piece. So it's been a great help.
Wonderful. How about you, Ellie?
It's a really rich prompt, and I was thinking like, oh, okay, like instinct was like Bible story and like Adam and Eve and like maybe growing someone out of a rib, which is what I wrote about, and I thought, yeah, it's Halloween, so just do horror. I like the horror aspect of it.
I love how like you guys both mentioned that it's really deep, and it actually just came from a Dungeons and Dragons game. Someone got hit by I think it was like some sort of Yeti thing. I can't really remember. And one of the players jokingly went, "Ah, that's my favorite rib," as they were like clawed by this thing. And then 2 minutes later, someone got hit with such a big attack that they broke a load of their ribs and very nearly died. So you had everyone on the group call like frantically getting them to roll saving throws so they didn't die. So that's why that quote stayed in my head, because it was kind of ironic that the ribs then got broken. So I'm glad you guys found such depth in it.
Yeah. We were the weird sisters. We spent our childhood fascinated by things alive. Anything that grew or slithered or flew was worthy of our worship. Our room was filled with snails and a minnow in a tank, a mushroom and a mouse. Do you remember the verruca?
Can I take it to school?
You asked, after pulling it out of my foot one day.
To make a microscope slide?
I agreed, and you showed me a photo when you came home. How it danced with itself, how it reached into my flesh. But you, older sister, you could wear your strangeness with grace. You sought out people like you, who liked you. I was always weighed down, ignored, the freak at the back of the class. When it was time for you to leave, off to university for 3 years, then 4, then 8, I was left alone, with no one but our mum and the creepy crawlies for company.
I wish I could take you with me, Tegan.
You say?
Maybe you could pass for a teddy bear in your onesie.
I laughed, but you were serious. You said you'd leave a bit of you with me. First it was your books.
Which are as much a part of me as my eyes.
Then it was a lock of your hair. Then it was your baby teeth, which you stole from Mum's room to place in mine. But throughout those years, I still longed for a human's touch, one that didn't consist of fur or feathers. A Zoom call, 7 years after you'd left.
How did the date go?
You ask, sitting down with a cup of coffee. Absolutely awful, Ree. The worst one yet. He literally asked me why I didn't make eye contact.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, you're a man, and I just met you, and I'm shy. What do you expect?
He was another swollen skull sort of guy?
I guess, but then he's right. It's just a basic social skill, eye contact.
No, it's mammal for threat. It's intimate. And you explained beforehand. If he deserved you...
I just stare at my shoes and you trail off. We begin to talk about your research, how you coagulated blood into pulsing flesh, grew a mouse from a rib and brought it to life. What? What?
I'll send you a video. See? She looks happy. We're releasing her tomorrow.
You're releasing her? How the hell is that good scientific practice?
I can't let her live her life in a cage.
I shake my head, and then we talk some more. I jokingly ask if you could grow something to help me get a boyfriend, and then you go serious. A clunk, then a ping as the laboratory lights turn on.
This space was originally for undergrads.
Mark, your friend and lab partner, explains.
But we lured them out with free pizza.
We walk through rows of equipment, passing test tubes and tanks of electrolytes and great wired machines. And then he's there. Naked, smooth-skinned, a tuft of black hair atop his head. His eyes are peacefully closed as he floats suspended in a tank. I see his ribs go in and out as he breathes through his mask. One is smaller than the rest, leaving a slight dip in his side.
I was sorry to give that one up.
You say softly.
It was my favourite.
I look up at him in awe. All I can say is, "Oh, Rhiannon," my voice no louder than a whisper. Mark goes behind one of the machines next to the tank, activating the electrodes that are attached to his chest.
Gather round, gather round. Prepare to see the greatest masterpiece that PhD procrastination has ever made.
I begin to panic. What if he doesn't like me? He's too beautiful for me. You place your hands on my shoulders and make hushing noises with your mouth.
He'll love you. He'll love you just like we do.
His eyes open and then he sees me. He smiles.
Oh my goodness, Ellie, this is awesome.
Damn!
That was incredible.
Thank you.
This is... I both did not expect something like this, and it's completely your style.
Yeah, I was trying to get creepy and wholesome together, so it's like sort of lovely but also weird at the same time. Like, I really like both of these characters, like, yeah, but they're also completely mad.
Mm. Yeah, your technical craft is the way that you build these characters and sort of make the story beats flow through is just so spot on. It's just so well put together.
Yeah, I basically had a load of images I want. Like, I put the prompt and had a load of images that I wanted to put together. Some of them from my own life. Like, when I was 14, I got a verruca and I was like, can I take this into school and make a microscope slide? And then at home, I've got a really fluffy onesie and I look like a teddy bear in it. Me and my friend would joke, can you take me with me if you're going on a school trip as a teddy bear? So I just wanted to get, like, those sort of images in and then just referencing, like, Adam and Eve and then a piece of Welsh. Have you heard the Mabinogion? The Welsh myths? The story.
Yeah.
Have you heard of, like, I'm going to butcher this because I'm not Welsh. It's called Bludoware story, which is basically this guy can't have a human wife. So some magicians make him a wife out of flowers. So that's why Rhiannon and Tegan are both Welsh names. So it's like as much like Welsh mythology as like Frankenstein, which is also like my favourite book. So I was like, so I just didn't want it to be a complete Frankenstein fan fiction.
It's so intricate. It's when because you realise that all these details are in, and now that you've just kind of explained them, I can see them even more. It's beautifully cinematic as well. Like the way you've used the images in there really works. I'm picturing this probably because we were talking about The Shape of Water like before we started recording, but this does feel a bit like a Del Toro movie in the kind of falling in love with a monster type.
Yeah, that was
deal.
My plan. Like I love how his films are both really creepy and weird and odd, but also stupidly wholesome, and that was like what I was aiming for. And then also like with the disability aspect, like again that sort of shyness. And then just like making a boyfriend.
What kind of disability did you picture this character as having?
I don't know. Part of me wanted to write maybe like a mental illness, but then I don't want to make it explicit because I'm not confident enough to write about that. Or maybe like a physical could get in, like that sort of shyness. Like I have a kind of CP which is very mild, but then I was thinking of like, and there is a form of shyness, and then in one draft, she was going to talk about like the Glass Menagerie, which is basically the plot. Like she has one of the characters in that is very shy, but she has
she's crippled, isn't she, in Glass Menagerie?
Yep. So I wanted to maybe mention the Glass Menagerie, but I realised I wouldn't like have space. And also getting into this issue is political and it takes time to do. Right, like I can write from my own experience, but I can't write from anyone else's, so I don't want to like represent that. So I'm kind of just left as like ambiguous.
It's definitely still a layer there, though, and it's still. I think you just put so many layers to this piece. I think you should really like enter into competitions and stuff like that because I think it could do really well.
Okay.
At least come back on the show again.
Yes, obviously that one.
Bring us more creepiness. Okay. Wonderful stuff. Speaking of wholesomeness, let's have a look at Izzy's piece.
Yeah.
Because it is wholesome.
It is wholesome. My piece, it's called Heart. It is a screenplay. And if you guys were listening to last week's episode, I did drop a little bit of a hint as to what I'd be doing for... I made a little bit of a promise as to what I'll be doing for next week. So I won't remind you guys of it until the end because I don't want to spoil it. And this will be part of a sort of wider TV program thing. So this piece is really just setting up my protagonist and trying to make them likable and showing the layers to them. So, are you guys ready?
And this is a screenplay, right? So we're kind of picturing it like a TV screen.
Yes, it'll be like a TV screen, and just because I've got a lot of characters in, I'm just going to say the name of the characters before we say their lines, just so you guys can keep track of who's speaking.
Wonderful. Let's take it away.
Interior. Newsagents. Day. Locals queue for the counter in the narrow shop. Sweets are stacked to their right and magazines line their left. Harry, 50s, fits a parcel into a black bag and runs brown tape around it as the customer waves a card over the reader. Harry.
Owen, what are you doing over there? Get to the front.
Owen, 30s, is at the back of the queue, clutching the Guardian and the Hornby magazine. Hanging on to the cuff of Owen's knitted jumper is Thomas, 6. Julie. I think I'm next. She puts her breakfast bar on the counter. Harry ignores it and beckons Owen, while the other customers pretend not to eavesdrop. Owen.
It's okay, I can queue.
Harry.
Don't you have to drop your son off?
Owen.
Yeah, but I'm not teaching him to queue jump.
Harry.
Excuse me for looking after my regulars.
Owen laughs and squeezes past everyone to get to the counter. He puts his item down and slides the breakfast bar into his pile. Julie. You don't have to do that. Owen.
It's 43p.
Julie. Thanks. Thomas is caught by the sweet section. Thomas.
Daddy, I need a Kinder Egg. Wait, they do Tanfastics now? Daddy!
Owen.
Choose one.
Thomas touches the big bag of Tanfastics, looks at his dad, then takes the small 20p bag. Standing on tiptoes, he puts it on the counter. Harry.
Good boy. Keep twisting your dad around your finger like that, and I'll pay you commission.
Harry scans the items and Owen drops some coins on the counter. Interior. Model railway hut. Day. Coins pass through a circuit and drop into the Friendship Project's charity bucket. Hornby trains carve their way through farmland, shoot through a tunnel, then plough through a city. Owen sits in the middle of his world and watches. Alice.
How does it work?
Alice, 9, stands on tiptoes to see the controller that Owen twists. Alice's brother off-screen. No, I don't want to see the trains. I'm not a baby. Owen.
Electricity in the track.
Alice.
I thought they used steam.
Owen picks up a tank engine from the track closest to him and turns it upside down. He leans over the track and shows it to Alice. Owen.
See that wire brush? It picks up the electricity.
Alice.
Oh.
She traces a finger around the brush, soaking up all the information she can. Owen.
You're right, though. They should use steam. I'm cheating.
Alice's dad off screen.
We're going now, Alice.
Alice.
5 more minutes.
She picks up a model cow and puts it next to a calf and bull. Owen looks at the bald patches in the grass where the cow used to be. Owen.
Maybe Father Christmas could bring you a train set to play with.
Alice smiles and nods. Alice's dad off screen.
Alice, get in the car.
Alice.
Fine.
Alice stomps out of the hut. Owen.
Have a good day.
Owen slides open a drawer, takes out the glue, and smudges it on the cow's hooves. He carefully lines up the hooves with the bald patches of grass and pushes the model down. The cow grazes a few millimetres out of place anyway. He takes a bag of grass from a drawer and glues down some around the animal. It's a few shades too light. Owen loads up a podcast and leans back in his chair as the theme tune plays. Podcast host 1.
Welcome to Organisation Station. This week it's all about timetabling.
Owen closes his eyes. The trains twist around him, then slow to a stop. Podcast host 2.
I don't know about you, Jim, but I always have to know exactly what I'm doing when.
Behind Owen, stabbed onto a pinboard, is a pencil calendar. Hornby magazine is scribbled on the 1st of March. Pick Up Mum WI is every Wednesday. Podcast host 1.
Same.
Podcast host 2.
If there's something I need to do, I just have to jot it down.
Podcast host 1.
Me too. Did you know the number one cause of friendship breakups is when one person feels the other isn't making time for them?
Next week's Coffee with Jen is crossed out. Podcast host 2.
Always make time for people. Always. But don't forget to make time for yourself too.
Kayaking, ice skating and other activities with FP are scattered around the month. The rest of Owen's calendar is filled by Thomas. T athletics, T scouts, T drama. Podcast host 1.
I never make enough time for myself.
Podcast host 2.
No, you don't. I have to tell you to slow down. Slow down.
Podcast host 1.
But it's also important to work towards your goals. Sometimes you have to push through that.
Podcast host 2.
Absolutely. What are your goals, Jim?
FPHQ fundraiser sits at the end of the month. Anna, 30s, brushes her boots on the doormat. Her yellow shirt dives into her long vintage skirt as she stares at Owen's calendar, then Owen, then back to the calendar. She exhales, unzips her purse, and puts a coin in the box to start up the trains. The coin is dated 2025.
Oh, so we're in the future then.
Okay.
Are we in?
Do you think they still have COVID? Do they still have COVID in 2025?
Well, are we in the future, or is she from the future?
Oh, I see what you did
Okay.
there.
That's quite cool.
Interesting. There was a particular moment I really liked, which was, I'm skimming through it. Where was it? The cause of breakups is not making time for people, and then coffee with Jen is crossed out. Like, one of the things we're taught in screenwriting is like, oh, show don't tell, and that just did that so perfectly.
Yeah.
Thanks. I had some fun with his calendar and thinking about how can I characterize someone just by showing what their month looks like.
My calendar has prompted and pink writing every Monday. I like how Owen was very quickly characterized.
It's lovely, like, how the people interact, like, all the different characters, and the way you balance them. Observing Owen interact with all the kids. I love how you wrote the kids. That was really well done, and just the way, very wholesome, very subtle. It was nice. It's
Oh,
lovely.
thanks. I enjoyed. Yeah, I always say that you can always tell a lot about a person by how they interact with other people, and so that's why in the first 3 minutes of my screenplay, I've just chucked people at Owen, and we're just seeing how he sort of goes with it.
I mean, especially how kind of like this kid is messing up his trains, but he's still like dealing with them in a polite way and not being like, can you grab your paws off my train set?
Yeah,
really lovely stuff.
I need him to be a nice guy because of other things that are going to be happening in the show.
Is he going to be doing things which aren't particularly nice later on?
We'll see. We shall see. You guys will find out.
What does that mean? Is he?
Like,
Is he going to murder someone or something like later down the line?
Kind of.
I genuinely can't believe like he'd do that. So I guess is setting up the tension for the series. If that makes any sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, we've definitely got the triggering point of the plot is basically Anna. That's why I left it there, because she is the sort of second protagonist, and so that's kind of what changes his life and turns it around.
Okay.
Very mysterious.
I like it.
Speaking of dubious acts, there we go, that segue just about managed to make it. I have gone back to my sci-fi characters that keep returning because I promised you guys a prison break. Realised I didn't know how to write a prison break, so this is what happened.
I'm so excited.
One of the problems with the ship's computer being a tetchy AI is that it's hard to convince her to let dangerous people on board, particularly when those people are demanding to be let on or they'll open fire. Lupus and I stood by the airlock, waiting. The clanking sounds of the bigger ship locking onto the Messiah made our silence all the more prominent. I was cradling an injured arm. He had a hand over his side to cover the now exposed wires, the metal around them still gently smoking. Needless to say, breaking Atherton out of prison hadn't gone according to plan. The airlock slid open with a hiss. Messi started sending indignant, all-capped messages across my vision again, which I dismissed with a double blink to focus on the woman in front of us. She had the uniform of a prison worker, long dark twists of hair pulled back into a neat ponytail, and boots that added a good 2 inches to her height. They didn't disguise the fact that she looked barely old enough to be earning a paycheck.
Good morning. I am Officer Io. Is this the entire crew of them, sire?
Yeah?
I said.
And you're, what, the kid of the guard who actually came after us?
She smiled politely.
That's very funny. I'd like to talk to Atherton, please. I know he's here.
He's not.
Io walked straight between me and Lupus, heading deeper into the ship.
If I don't find him in the next 10 minutes, it is within my right to request backup. Will that really be necessary? Especially considering that the ship is stolen property.
I felt Lupus twitch in confusion. How are you aware that this ship is stolen property? I gave him a dig with my elbow. She spun round, still smiling.
I recognise the design from Atherton's files.
You read it on the way over here?
No, I read it when he first arrived.
That was years ago. How can you?
I have a very good memory.
She kept walking through the ship. It took longer than I'd admit to realise she was following the trail of air vents, registering them with a flick of her eye to keep it subtle. She must have already decided they were the most likely hiding spot for Atherton. She was right.
Where's your kitchen?
She asked. It is this way. Lupus, eager as always to show what he had learned, decided to be hospitable. Would you like a cup of tea? Io nodded, and as he led her through, before busying himself at the counter, he completely missed my signs for him to stop, or maybe he was just ignoring me. I dragged him away from the prison guard before he'd had a chance to grab the metal plate they'd shot off his chest, and he could sulk for days. Would you like an unhealthy sweetening substance?
Yes, please.
She perched on a kitchen chair.
Now, I understand why you'd want to talk to Atherton, but believe me, he's no help to you.
Because
he didn't make those designs you asked him for. At least, not entirely. He had a partner. Oh yes, I know about those.
She clocked my confusion.
I hacked into your messages to him. Sorry about that.
Lupus set some cups down on the table. Calypso encrypted those messages?
Not properly.
She wrapped her fingers round the tea. Those cups always got boiling hot, but she didn't seem to pay attention to the heat.
I'd like to make this very clear. If Atherton doesn't reveal himself, I'll have to arrest him. Again, I'll add on a few more years to his sentence, and it's already hefty. I'd suggest that.
There was a sudden thud as an object thrown from the corridor slammed into the side of her head. Lupus ran to catch her as she fell off the chair.
Atherton, what was that?
I yelled. He stood in the doorway, still in his prison suit.
Is he dead?
She is merely unconscious, but there may be more damage. Lupus carefully laid her on the floor. That was an incredibly dangerous course of action.
She's fine. You'd better go before the prison notices she's gone.
And do what with her, exactly?
Bring her with us. You heard how smart she is. Maybe she can help you.
He sounded so casual about it. His calm was making my skin crawl. Calypso? Lupus was staring at Atherton. This is not a morally correct course of action. We cannot do this.
We can. There isn't much time, though. Make your choices, both of you.
Atherton took her cup of tea and started to drink it. Lupus turned to me. Messi started sending more frantic text across my vision, warnings maybe, but I didn't read them. Leaving Io on her shutter would be a bad idea. I had no idea whatever object Atherton had thrown on her head had done. Taking her with us felt all kinds of wrong, but it seemed like a better option. And she could help, maybe. Get Messi out of my head for good.
Make her comfortable, Loop. I'll get Messi to take us away as quickly as possible.
Oh.
There was a prison break.
It's just not gone well. Just really not well.
It's so good. Just like your sense of humour, just the way Io is. She was so much fun to play.
Io will be coming back. I am quite fond of Io. I feel like she's got a kid genius vibe going on.
Yeah.
It's quite weird because. Sorry,
also, I was just going to say, the way that you built up the tension was so good, and even though you told us it was a prison break, I did not expect her to just have something thrown at her head and just be completely taken out. I was like, oh wait, the prison break's starting, yes!
Yeah.
I mean, they've done the prison break. That's why she was coming on the ship to be like, hey, I know you've got a prisoner on board. Give him back.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Hence why Atherton was just like, heck no, throws something from the corridor. They do now sort of have an accidental hostage, so it's not going to go very well at all. It's weird writing these because I have to write them because these characters keep coming back. I have to keep kind of writing them so people who haven't heard the previous ones will understand them. So apologies if that gets a little bit repetitive, but I think I've avoided it thus far, hopefully.
I love the ship's Messi, is she called? I love
Messi.
I love this character. Just like an AI, but then will refuse to do what you say, like argue with you. I love that. I think it's
the ship is called Messiah, but the computer is called Messi, I think, by everyone except Lupus, because Lupus is very proper.
Lupus is sweet. I like Lupus.
Lupus is sweet. Lupus deserves more than what he's getting right now from everyone. Okay. Speaking of... Right, there's a segue here somewhere. Hang on. Speaking of problematic circumstances, there we go. Oh, come on, Izzy, that was tenuous. Our discussion this week is how we present clichés and stereotypes in society and how writing can combat that. So the idea that things that we write can show stereotypes and clichés, and they do affect how people view other people or even themselves.
Yeah. Like, so when I'm writing, do you ever get that you're incredibly aware of the stereotypes that you can fall into? Like, I was writing a script for a film competition, which I didn't enter, but like I was intending to. So, and the script basically was a Zoom call because how else am I going to make a film over lockdown with someone explaining why they couldn't visit their partner over the holiday because they were caring for their mum. And there was this problem. So originally I had it, the woman, Joanna, caring for her mum, and I was worried, no, you're falling into the stereotype of women being caring. But then her partner gets touchy with her, and Thomas, I think his name was, and I just switched it so Thomas was caring, but then I had Joanna being tetchy, and then that falls into all the negative stereotypes of women not being caring. Like, if I did that, I knew that the character would be extremely unlikable, so it was just, again, being caught. So I remember in that script just being like, there's too much, really struggling to avoid stereotypes, but you can, like, you're aware of that responsibility almost, like, and when you see it, a piece break stereotypes, it's just wonderful. It's like it just makes it so much better.
From what you've described, Ellie, I really don't think you were being stereotypical.
No,
you were making so much effort to avoid it. I think you were fine.
No, but like I was aware of it, and it gets worse because the idea for this film was it would be a minute long. So I'm just
okay.
So it was like, I was probably overthinking it, but like I was just thinking probably too in depth. But like, do you get that awareness of like this
Yeah.
is how
I mean,
I
at least you're aware of it and you're trying to avoid it. That's such a good sign.
'Cause, yeah, I get the same thing of, especially, yeah, I definitely get the same thing because I think it's every writer's nightmare to have someone sort of consume their work. That doesn't sound like the right word, but I don't want to say read or watch or whatever. Consume, eat
Yeah,
their
no,
work.
consumer's good.
And yeah, I don't want. I get the fear that someone would eat my work and get upset by some kind of, if there's a stereotype or if I've included a certain minority and I just haven't researched them enough and they're just not quite right. I always do. That's why I always focus on so much research, because I think if I'm writing about a minority that I don't come under, I always then have to do so much research just so I can understand, okay, how is this character going to talk? How might they think? What are the common stereotypes against them, and how can I combat that? And yeah, but when I'm writing about a minority that I am, it's just so easy. I can be super smug about it because you just know these things. Like, I don't know whether any of you guys noticed, but the character Owen that I just built up, he is dyspraxic, and I thought instead of showing it by having him drop a train or something like that, or because the normal stereotype for dyspraxia is that someone's just a bit clumsy, and so instead of showing him fall over or something a bit comedic, I thought that I would instead show his coping mechanisms. So the fact that because with dyspraxia it's quite hard to organise things, the fact that he's trying to work around his difficulty with organisation by listening to podcasts that help him out, and the fact that he's got a calendar that he's so religiously sticking to, because I know with my dyspraxia you can't often see it through you can't often see me struggling with it because there's so much that goes into the getting around it, if that makes sense. So I thought that I'd show it that way because I think that's a nice, it combats a few more stereotypes like that.
that's very cool. Do you ever get this? So in like bits of, I'm doing philosophy, I do research into it, and a bit what I'm doing my dissertation on is on this idea of, it's called epistemic injustice, but it's when these stereotypes stop people from communicating knowledge. Either they don't like have the language to perceive themselves correctly, or like they're seen as like, oh, you can't know this because you're part of a certain stereotype, like you're a woman so you can't be rational. So, and the idea is socializate. My idea for this is like, for this prompt idea was like socialization, and I'm not entirely sure what actually contributes to socialization, but like the biggest thing I can think of, again, me not knowing much about it, having not researched it, is media. So it's so much weight to it. So do you get excited when you see good representation of like minorities you're in? Because it's like, we were talking about The Shape of Water earlier, and again, quite a few bits of it are incredibly flawed, but I remember the opening when Eliza just dances, and it's like the first time I'd seen like a disabled life not like ruined by a disability, and I was like, yes, this is brilliant.
So something that I know you've watched as well, Ellie, is that TV series Class.
Yes.
Yeah. Class is good. It does have a few issues, but I saw a post the other day where someone kind of pointed out like, oh, Class is the only TV series I have ever seen where someone's talking about what the Sikh religion means to them. And I was like, that's very, very true.
Yeah, it's Patrick there, so like he's brilliant at that. Like I remember in Monster was talking about like what it is to be 13, and he gets it so accurate of like what it actually is to be a kid. Yeah, Patrick Ness is my favourite writer, so ooh.
I feel like that's the first conversation we had. The first conversation we had was just, you like Chaos Walking? Fantastic, me too, we're now friends.
Yeah, and then we worry about the film. Yeah.
What about you, Izzy? What do you think?
I love it when there's a film or a TV show that just really breaks stereotypes and stuff, because that's how people learn. That's how you humanize people, is you show them on your TV. Because if you have everyone watching, if you have everyone learning about these characters and getting attached to these characters, regardless of what minority group they fall into, then people can really see it, they're human, and relate to, well, not even relate to, but just learn about some of the things that they might go through. And I just think it's so important. I recently just finished watching season 2 of The Boys, which is a lot of fun because they have a lot of, it's a patriarchal world, but they have a lot of male characters who, I won't give spoilers, but there's this young boy, and there's this old, like, supposed to be super strong, it's all about superheroes, so there's this old super strong man, and the young boy says to the man, "Do you ever cry?" And he goes, "No." And then you see the character development where in one of the last scenes the little boy does see the man crying, and so that's just things like that where it's just going against toxic masculinity and having these sort of very strong people who are then also very emotional, very much can connect to their team, look out for one another, can support each other, can be a shoulder to cry on. I just thought that was really awesome.
That's very cool.
It's a great show.
Boys.
I've seen, it's got the guy who plays Bones in Calvin Timeline Star Trek in it, hasn't it?
I have never watched Star Trek, Erin, I'm sorry.
Oh, hang on, let me Google the name of this actor. How have you not watched Star Trek, Izzy?
It's so good.
You're never going to be my friend again. I may have seen...
I'm absolutely your friend. Carl Urban, you know Carl Urban.
No, I don't know.
In Thor Ragnarok, he plays that guy with all the tattoos.
Oh yeah, okay.
That guy.
So, I don't really look into actors and actresses and stuff. But it was just such a cool show, and they also do a lot of cool stuff where they play on stereotypes as well, because there's a plot line where one of the female superheroes has a girlfriend. And so they really play on that stereotypes because the PR people are like, yes, this is inclusivity, we're going to really market this. And she's just like, leave me alone, I'm just trying to get on with my relationship here, you don't need to make it into a marketing point. And so it really shows you how harmful stereotypes are as well. Like there's this really powerful line where the marketing person says to her, oh, like we're going to make this story really big all about you coming out as lesbian, and she just went, well, I'm bi. And I thought that was such a powerful line.
That's great.
Yes, definitely.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Go on, Ellie?
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead, it's cool.
Okay. Like, I was actually going to talk about your films in this. Like, I think the way you do this sort of really good representation of just having it as a non-issue. Literally, I think the couple in Locke were both men, and that was just a quirk of casting, right?
For reference, Locke is a short film I made, which Ellie was in. Who were you playing? Rosa. You were playing Rosa, and you were fantastic.
I was playing Rosa. Yeah. Fun.
We ended up, because of just people who volunteered to be in the film, we did end up with, I think it was 4 men and 1 woman, the woman being Ellie.
Yeah.
So we did have a gay couple was like the main couple, which was fantastic. The way I wrote that was fun though, because I didn't want to like pigeonhole people into parts, so I had to write the entire thing as like gender neutral, just with like using names and they pronouns and stuff. And then when people were cast, I had to go back and change all of them, which was fun. Which was very fun.
I think that's a good way of doing it. Like I've heard this from a friend, but have you seen Alien? Like
I've heard about that.
So Alien has this really strong female character, Ripley, and she is. I think this film came out in the 70s, so it's quite revolutionary. And I think what happened was it was written gender neutral, so Ripley was originally a man. But
yeah,
then,
I heard that too. They just use surnames, right?
Yeah, I think so. But then, like, in Aliens it is explored more because she gets this whole maternal relationship with the sequel, she gets this paternal relationship with this little girl, and she discovered, like, because of time and space, like, her daughter is now in her 80s, because, like, how space works. And so we've got that whole slant while having this amazing, strong female character. And yeah, Aliens is good. Alien and Aliens. And
Speaking of like strong females, have either of you seen Once Upon a Time?
No.
Okay, I'll very quickly talk about this and then we'll wrap up. So Once Upon a Time is a show that incorporates different characters from like fairy tales and Disney and stuff. I know that sounds really cheesy. Like most of its seasons are 15s. It is directed at like teenagers / young adults. But they have a very cool thing where they have a lot of kind of I'm talking about strong female characters as like a cliches and tropes because I don't feel I have experience with many others. As in like I'm not in a minority group other than that. But anyway, they have a lot of very strong female characters. So like Snow White is very powerful, the evil queen is very powerful, and they do this all the way through. And they had this one episode where they brought in Megara from Hercules, and she was just all she really did was sort of whimper and scream and try and get Hercules to save her, and people were outraged. Like there were a lot of people on the internet getting really angry about the fact that Megara was like kind of a very wimpy character. And I agree that they shouldn't have made Megara the one wimpy female character, because you know if people are going to expect Megara from Disney's Hercules. But it was, other than that, I was genuinely okay with it because there were so many other diverse females in the cast already. Like they had very strong female characters, and they had characters that were kind of very easily manipulated, and then they had like this character who did need someone to save her, and that was kind of okay. So I guess a good way of working around stereotypes and cliches is just having more representation of characters, so you don't just have like the one that has a certain trait that could be seen as stereotypical, like having just one female character in a cast of men or just one person of colour character in a cast of white people. Like have more of them.
Yeah, definitely.
And that'll solve the problem.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
That was my rant.
Okay.
Okay. You guys okay for me to wrap up?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thanks so much for having me on. This has been amazing.
Thank you for coming on.
You've been really good. I loved your piece so much. I still can't get over that. I'm gonna have a little reread of it later.
You can listen back to it when the editor's done it. Listen back. Okay, I'm gonna do the little end piece then. So thank you very much to all our writers on today's show, especially Ellie. You were wonderful. And thank you for everyone listening. If you would like to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/promptedwritingpodcast for bonus content and shoutouts. We've also got our YouTube, which is awesome. We're getting lots of views on there, which is Prompted Writing Podcast. Be sure to leave us reviews, telling us what you think. Give us comments. We love those. For more prompts and writing, find us on Instagram at Prompted Writing Podcast. And thank you for listening.